Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. This is a start collecting that has been a long time coming. Now I'm going to be honest with you, I actually thought I'd already done one of these. This is obviously my Mandela moment, but it turns out that I haven't, and people have been asking for it for some time. With the release of the new plastics from the Perrys, I thought what better time than now to do start collecting Spanish. Now, the rules for this series are pretty much set in stone at this time. So we have two chunks of money, and the amount has been increased to £125. That's just due to prices going up across the board. And that's two chunks of £125, and the idea is it comes out of maybe 2 pay packets. You probably can't, there's not that many people who can afford to throw a whole army's money down out of 1 pay packet. Or if you're maybe a younger viewer or listener, it might be birthday money or holiday money, or even if you are a older one with particularly generous grandparents or parents. Another good thing is it could be a bonus from work. I know sometimes they're quarterly, or it could be like an annual bonus or a tax rebate and then a Christmas bonus, something like that. But anyway, the idea is that it is 2 lumps of £125. The first £125, we're going to concentrate on buying the core of the army. And then the second load, we are going to buy the fun stuff and maybe fill out the choices from month 1. Now, the prices I'll be quoting will be direct from the manufacturer's website, and please, please, please be aware that there are cheaper options out there than buying direct, particularly when it comes to the plastic figures. I've got an example of that in the video. So to balance that out, though, I won't be including the cost of postage and packaging. I also won't be including things like glues and paints, because I assume most people watching these videos either wargame a different army in the same period, or perhaps a completely different game or period altogether, so like 40k or something like that. Now, we're going to set units at 24 figures for an average infantry unit, 8 for an average-sized cavalry one, and a battery of guns can be 1 or 2 guns, depending on taste. I'm going to suggest that we do it as 2 guns, but it's entirely up to you whether you just want 1 gun or 2 guns. We'll include the money for flags and bases as required, but we're also going to be able to take advantage of ones that come in the plastic boxes as well. I think that's everything. I think that's all of the rules out of the way. If there's any more that come up, then we will address them when they do. So with that in mind, let's get into the spending. So, to I am certain absolutely nobody's surprise, we are going to start off by diving into the Perry's website. Now, I'm going to give you a spoiler here. The vast majority of the figures in this project are going to be coming from the Perry's. Now, not only are the Perrys good for their Spanish Napoleonic range as well, but they do a number of other ranges that might be worth looking at as well to see if there's anything suitable for the more creatively minded out there. They do the War of the Triple Alliance, and they also do the Carlist War as well. Now, there may be some figures in those sets that you can use, particularly things like militia and stuff like that. One of the things I really like in the War of the Triple Alliance are the guys in like the Peruvian skirts. Now, if you were to be doing, for argument's sake, the British attack on the battle on the River Plate, so not the Graf Spee one, but when the Brits attacked Buenos Aires, or the attack on Montevideo, then you could perhaps use these figures for that as well. I'm not 100% versed on Spanish colonial troops, but I think they would add a nice fun addition to your regular guys. So be aware there are those other 2 ranges as well, although because this is a getting started, I'm not going to be delving too much into them here. Anyway, so that's enough dilly-dallying, and we're going to go deep. We're going to go cojones deep, and we're going to splash out £75 on the Perry Infantry Brigade deal. Now, this is going to be 3 boxes of Spanish infantry, and with them you get a free model of Pedro Carasueda, the 3rd Marquis de la Romana, who was quite possibly Spain's best commander in the Napoleonic Wars. Now, as we're going to have a copy of his mini, let us base our army on his division in 1808. So these French recruited a division of Spanish infantry and ended up sending them to Denmark. So we're going to roughly base the army around his division in 1808, although we're not going to follow it slavishly. It just gives us some guidelines to work to. Now, one of the great things about these Brigade deals is the Perry's new way of releasing models is to do two different boxes. You've got effectively marching poses and action poses. I'm using that's how Hat would have differentiated them. But you do get two sprues of the alternative box in your box. So for example, if you buy a box of marching ones, you will have two sprues of firing ones and vice versa. So this one really is dealer's choice. I'm going to recommend that we get two boxes of marching and one of firing, but it's honestly entirely up to you which ones you go for. Do you want your troops marching or do you want them shooting? Is basically what it boils down to. Now you get 38 models in each box. So you get a sprue of 8 models, that's the command sprue, and then you get however many sprues it is. I think it's 6 sprues of 5 to make up the rest of the troops. So we've got 90 men, so they're either going to be in firing or marching, or a mixture of the two, depending on which one we've gone for. And we've got 3 lots of 8 command. Now, one of the really good things about the Spanish box set is you get tons of troops on the command frame. You actually get 8 figures on the command frame. You get 2 standard bearers, you get 2 drummers, you get 2 officers, you get a pioneer, and you get an NCO. So that is enough to make 2 4-man command groups with a little bit of converting. So that's pretty sweet. So you can have a command group that consists of 2 standard bearers, an officer and a drummer, and then one that consists of 2 standard bearers, an officer and a drummer, and you still got the pioneer that you can kick into the Grenadier company, which is where he belongs, and an NCO that can be in one of the other companies. Now, I've talked there about having 4 standard bearers. You do only get 2 on the sprue, so we're going to factor in buying some wire spears that we can convert our other guys into standard bearers with. Now, it's going to be a really simple job. Even if you buy the firing guys, you're still going to have 6 sprues worth of marching guys. So all you need to do is cut off the musket from someone's arm, replace it with a spear. Job's a good one. You've got yourself a flagpole. Now, admittedly, the guy holding the musket, he's not going to be an officer. His uniform will be slightly different, but it doesn't really matter because we can have him in the back rank. No one's going to really look at the figure anyway. So that is how I would recommend you go about it. Now, if you don't want to, you can go to the likes of Front Rank or Eagle Miniatures or Brigade Games and pick up a standard bearer separately from any of those. But for me, honestly, yeah, I'm literally just going to cut the musket off a guy's arm, drill a hole in his hand, and glue the flagpole into it. You don't even need to drill the hole in his hand either, really. And I'm going to recommend where we get the spears from when we look later on in the month and we look at getting some bases. So with the 90 line figures and the regiments and the 6 company command or battalion commands, that gives us a total of 114 models, which is enough to get us 4 battalions of 24 figures and an extra one of 14 figures. And it also leaves us with a command group left over. Now, as Spanish regiments had 3 battalions each, we could do 3 battalions of one regiment and 1 battalion of another regiment, but I'm going to recommend we do 2 battalions of 2 regiments. Now, the Spanish organisation for their units was very different to everyone else's. Say the French, every battalion had a light infantry company and a grenadier company. The Spanish did not do it that way. The Spanish had half of their 1st battalion was made of grenadiers, and then 2nd and 3rd battalion had no grenadiers at all. So this allows us to have 2 lots of grenadiers, which is pretty cool, and two units without grenadiers. So, fair enough. You know me, I love my grenadiers, so that's good to me. And the Spanish basically had 2 different types of uniform. They had the all-white uniform, and they also had a blue-coated uniform as well. Now, not all the units, I mean, certain units wore certain things, and I don't know the ones in La Romana's division, which colours they wore, but I would do, just for to break up the painting, I would do 2 battalions of guys in white coats, and 2 battalions of guys in blue coats. But we do have this 5th battalion hanging around, so, well, as I say 5th battalion hanging around, it's got 14 figures in it. Now, we could potentially make it up to 16, maybe have like a scenic base or a mounted commander or something like that in there. But what I'm going to recommend is that when we pick up the 3 packs of models, we also splash out on 2 packs of metal Spanish infantry. Now, the exact packs are going to depend on how you want to equip your Spanish. Perrys do metals in bicorns, in shakos, in round hats. So it depends on which option you want to go for in your original battalions. For me, I would probably go with the bicorns. I think the bicorns are particularly Spanish. So that would be picking up 2 packs of SPA-2 Fusiliers Marching. That would be the obvious choice. However, you might want to go a different route. And that is to pick up SPA-21, and that is Grenadiers Marching 1808 to 1809, getting 2 packs of those. Now, the reason I would recommend getting the metal Grenadiers is, although you do get Grenadier heads in the plastic set, the metal ones have the design on the back of the flame modelled on. So the Spanish bearskins are a little bit weird. They're very different to French ones. They are very high at the front. They're more like Austrian ones. They're very high at the front and low at the back. And a tongue or a flame comes out of the back of the bearskin. It's actually the bag for keeping it dry. But on this flame is quite a fancy design, which you could paint on. But I always find painting stuff on's easier when it's actually modelled onto the figure, because you can just use the side of the brush then. So that is why I would recommend getting 2 packs of SPA-21 Grenadiers Marching, and that'll make our 14-man unit into a 26-man 1st battalion, because, as I say, half of the battalion should be made up of Grenadiers. So we are good to go. We got 12 Grenadier models, we got 14 other ones there. So by the time we have got our extra 12 figures, we've actually got a couple of Grenadiers left over, because you only need 10, because, as I say, half the battalion is Grenadiers. So 10 are Grenadiers, 10 are Fusiliers, and 4 are command. So that means we've got 2 left over, and they will go on the base with La Romana, and they'll just make him look that little bit more funky as he orders his Grenadiers into the attack. So, having spent £75 on the 3 boxes, and buying these guys for another 17, so 2 packs at £8.50 each, we are on £92. Now, this is where I have to do a PSA, a public service announcement, / caveat. That is, the Perry's deal in this case, the 3 boxes, it does not get us a discount. We're paying full price for the models, but we get our La Romana model free. If you are not that bothered about La Romana, if you think you can get Spanish colonels from elsewhere, and we'll come on to that later, then it might be worth looking in other places for these boxes. For instance, Wargames Emporium has them at £23, so you'll be saving £2 a box. Or the the company I've mentioned before, S&M Stuff, is not for ball gags, but you will feel like you have been ball gagged when you buy a box of Spanish infantry from them for $19.99. Now that actually saves us £15 if we buy 3 boxes. I would recommend, if you're going to S&M Stuff, that you spend the extra £5 and get yourself some nipple. No. You get yourself 4 boxes of Spanish infantry from them. That would cost you 80 quid. As I say, the rules for these videos are that we go to the manufacturers where possible. But please, please, please really think about that La Romana figure's costing me 15 quid. Is he worth 15 quid? If you think he is, now for me, I want to buy the Chasseur deal, because for me, Marbo is worth 15 quid. Call me a weirdo. But if you're not that bothered about La Romana, you don't want to spend the extra 15 quid, honestly, I would look at online retailers, third-party sellers. You'll be able to save quite a bit of money. But with that out of the way, we can carry on with our shopping, and we will leave. No, we're not going to leave there, Perry's. Well, Guy had you going on there. Now we are going to look at some artillery. Now, there are 2 packs of Spanish artillery, 1 loading, 1 firing. So it's dealer's choice. You can get SPA 34, that's foot artillery firing 8-pounder. If you prefer, you can get the SPA 35, which is them loading, or you can get one of each. Doesn't really matter. Whatever you want to do, 2 of these cannons is going to cost us £21. So we are going to be on £113. That gives us £12 left over for the month, which is a bit too much for Freddos, so we'd better start looking at buying something else. Now, normally this is the part in the video where we leap over to war bases and buy our bases from them. But I am going to recommend one of their competitors today. Well, I don't know if they're a direct competitor, but I am going to recommend a company that is new to the channel, and that is Pendraken. Now, Pendraken may be new to the channel, but they are certainly not new to the world of wargaming. They have been going for years, and while they do have a 28mm range, they are perhaps most famous for their 10mm stuff. But they also have quite a nice little sideline in accessories as well. So we are going to buy WEA SP50, which is a pack of 50 spears for $4.95. Now, these spears, you can either have like pike tips, where they're just like round and then they go to a point, or you can have like a broad leaf head spear blade. That's what we're going to go for, because we are going to use these as flagpoles. We can also use them to replace some lancers later on, if we were to buy lancers. Hint, we are. So I'm going to recommend we pick those up for $4.95. It's a bit of an overkill, but at least you'll have spares when you get on to doing your Dark Age army or something equally cool. Now, we're going to grab, while we're here at Pendraken, this is where we're going to grab our bases from. So we're going to have some for the commander and for the artillery. So we're going to buy BC 40, that'll give us 12 40mm round bases, and BS 10050, and that'll give us 5 100mm by 50mm artillery size bases. So they're pretty big for the artillery, but I've also got something else in mind for them, so we want quite beefy ones. Anyone going to Partisan next week will see me hovering around the Pendraken stand, because I'll be picking up a bunch of bases from them and some spears and lancers as well. Now, their bases are £1.50 per tub, so that is going to be £3 in addition to the basically £5 that we spent on the spears. So another £8 takes us to £121 for the month, leaving us with £4 left over, which we are going to save for next month. Now, to be honest, you could also do with getting some... in fact, yeah, I'm going to... well, you could do with getting some cavalry bases at this time as well, but I've written down all my maths workings out, and I don't want to recalculate them as I'm reading. So when I start talking about next month, take £1.50 out of this, because it's also worth buying some 50mm square bases for the cavalry that we're going to be picking up in next month. So with that slight look ahead, what has month 1 got us? Well, it's not got us that much, really, I don't think. I think this is one of the getting started videos that, I don't know, the money just doesn't seem to have gone that far, I don't think. We've got 1 2-gun artillery battery, and we've got 5 battalions of infantry. Now, I had 4 battalions of infantry here, but we've got 5 battalions because we made the extra one with the metal figures. We've got an overall army commander in La Romana, and we have bases and flags which come in the Perry box. So we're not looking... So it's a solid, if not spectacular, start. One thing that I am concerned about is we've only got 5 battalions of infantry. Realistically, in the final army, you would want at least double that. Certainly 8 battalions would be the minimum, but don't worry, we're going to look into perhaps grabbing some more next month. And it's one of those things where if we did a part 3 to this, so obviously this is part 1, part 2 is the second month. If we did a third month, then that's perhaps when we would expand the infantry element out a little bit more. So, with another £125, we are going to forge our path into month 2. Now, as I said at the end of part 1, the infantry I'm a little bit concerned about. I think we could do with some more, but don't worry, we will be able to facilitate that. But first off, we're going to start off with some caballeros. We're going to grab ourselves some cavalry. Now, in 1807, La Romana's division consisted of 3 regiments of cavalry, which were basically all dragoons. They may not have called themselves that, but that's basically what they were. We are going to make do with just 2, because we're going to be saving our monies for something else. Now, we're going to head over to a second newcomer to the channel, and it's a rather unusual name. It's probably not the name I would have picked for the company, but the company is Offensive Miniatures, as in, like, military offensive, not as in, like, you know, they're things that the blue-haired feminists to shout at you for. They probably would anyway. But Offensive Miniatures and their Follow the Drum range is their Napoleonic range. These are some really nice models. Really, really nice models. And they do a good range of Spanish in here. But they also do a unit deal. Now, we are going to go for FNS 706, which gives us 12 dragoons for, I think, the very reasonable price of £35. Now, we've got too many dragoons for 1 unit, so we're going to pick up a command box of, or command blister of FNSP 620. That is Spanish Dragoon Command, which gives us 2 units of 8. Sort of, it gives us 15, so we're going to have to do a unit of 8 and a unit of 7, and we're going to have to do a little bit of creative modelling to get us to the to fill the gap where that 8th dragoon should be. Maybe it can be like resting under an olive tree or something like that. So with that extra command group, they're £10 each, so they're actually cheaper than buying metals from the Perrys. That's going to cost us £45, minus the £4 that we spent in month 1. So we're going to have spent £41 in this month's budget. Now, here is another caveat. The Spanish dragoons in particular, or the Spanish cavalry, they used a lot of equipment that was either given to them or captured by other people. You could very easily use Perry plastic cuirassiers to make the I think they're called like Caraccios or something. That they were the Spanish cuirassiers who used French equipment, but they had red coats. They're one of my favourite units in the Napoleonic Wars, actually, because they look absolutely awesome. You could also buy British light dragoons, because they did adopt the tarleton, so that's another way of going for them as well. So they would both be cheaper. I mean, we spent £45 here. You could, for the same price, buy a box of cuirassiers and a box of British dragoons, light dragoons. Then you would have effectively 4 regiments of each, because you get 14 models in the cuirassier box. I think you get 14 in the Perry one as well. Buy yourself a sprue of horses. That gives you 4 more horses. Job's a good one. So that is another way you could go. That would give you much more bang for your buck. That would give you double the number of cavalry regiments. However, we're going to stick with Offensive Miniatures. Check them out, even if you would rather go down the plastic route yourself, because they are really, really nice models. They are spectacular. Very much worth looking at, in my opinion. So while we could have gone with the plastics, I am going to recommend that we stick with the Offensive Miniatures metals, and those 2 regiments we can paint up as the Del Rey and the Almanza Dragoon regiments, because they were the ones, or 2 of the ones that were in his command in 1807. Now, I should say that when I was talking about buying those boxes of plastics, again, you're looking something like S&M stuff or one of those websites, Wayland Games perhaps, because you're wanting to get them for like 20 quid. So that's how you would get the money off. But as I say, I'm going to stick with Offensive Miniatures today. Just remember, though, that the plastics are an option. You just have to think outside the box a little bit. So far, we have concentrated very heavily on La Romana's 1807 division, and this is where we are going to break with that, because how can you have a Spanish army without perhaps their most iconic troop type, and that is some guerrillas. So we're going to now the question is, can 100 Frenchmen beat 1 guerrilla? I will let you guys be the judge of that one. But we are definitely going to get some in our army. And we're going to head back to the Perrys, because of course we are. And we're going to buy basically 1 of each of their Guerrilla Packs. So that's SPA 52 through to 55. And that gives us command It gives us pistols and swords, rifle running and rifle firing. Oh yeah, muskets moving and muskets firing. So this gives us 24 hard-bitten bandoleros in these packs. Well, technically 21. Would it be a bandolera if you're a female? I don't know. But anyway, it gives us 24 figures, which is enough for 2 small units of 12. And that's good. There's 6 command groups in the command pack, so we can divide those, 3 in each. That gives us our two small units. Now, I would recommend doing this even if you don't collect the Spanish army. If you collect, say, Peninsular War British, then I would go with that. You could also maybe do it if you collect Peninsular War French. I have absolutely no doubt that there were guerrilla bands that fought for the French as well. So, I don't know. But that's definitely something that you could look at doing anyway. So that would be our guerrilla infantry, and I would recommend that we also grab some cavalry as well. Now, the Perrys do 3 packs of mounted guerrillas. I would recommend that we get 2 of them. So that's either SPA 58, 59, or 60. I think that I just pick up 2. I think 3 would probably be a bit too many, although you could do 2 units of 4. But I think just 2 gives you maybe a unit of 4 or 5, and then a one left over who you can use as the brigade commander. Now, for me, there's a guy in a round hat in SPA 58. I would use him as the brigade commander, so I'll buy that pack and one of the other ones. Again, it's up to you to decide which one. One of the nice things that we've got is if you want the lancers, we do have those nice brass spears that we can use instead of the wibbly-wobbly Perry metal lancers. I would also have liked to head over to Brigade Games and pick up some of their mounted guerrillas. They do one for La Ahuja, or Teresa from Sharp. Officer's mate, is she, sir? As Obadiah would say. So, I mean, it would be cool to have her in the army as well. But unfortunately, it's just not in the budget, I'm afraid. Because with these 4 infantry packs and 2 cavalry packs, it's going to cost us another £54. In addition to the cavalry from Offensive Miniatures, that takes us to £95 for the month. Now, interestingly, for the basing of these guys, I wouldn't necessarily... We do have leftover bases from the plastic infantry, but I wouldn't use them for these guys. Instead, I would use the leftover artillery bases. So they were 100 by 50 mil, and I would have the troops facing the long edge of that base. And I would have them maybe like a little vignette on the base. So you might have them, sniping from behind rocks or running forward. But I would base them as a small warband, effectively, just on that one big base. And you could make cool little vignettes out of those. Same with the cavalry. I've done that with my Cossacks. So I would have the 4 or 5 cavalrymen just on like a scenic base, effectively. You could even mix in some bits from Wargames Atlantic's Aztecs to make your Sharp's Gold guerrilla. I mean, I wouldn't recommend doing that, but you could do. I mean, why not? But we've got £30 left over. What are we going to do with it? Well, there's a few ways that you can go. I am going to... Well, so we could get some mounted commanders from the Perrys, and we could perhaps get some more flags as well. Now, we've got the flags that come in the box, but they are a bit limiting. We could maybe do with some more. So that's one suggestion we could go for. We could also buy another box of infantry. That would really fill up the number of troops we've got. We'd get another 1.5 battalions out of that. So that would give us 6.5 battalions. We could maybe even do the half battalion as light infantry, skirmishing light infantry. And if I'm honest, that would probably be my suggestion. Grab that 4th box of Spanish infantry, and that gives us, we get 38 figures in there. So we've got 24 for the battalion, which leaves us 14 left over, including command. So you could maybe prize the 2 Grenadiers off La Romana's base, leave him on his own, and you'd have a 16-man small regiment there. Or, as I say, you could just do them as skirmishers and use them as a light infantry battalion, which, actually, thinking about it, that's probably what I would do in the end. The downside with that, though, is we've got no brigade commanders. We've got our overall army commander. We've got a commander for the guerrillas, but we don't have anything for the Spanish line. So you could also head back. Instead of getting that extra box of Spanish infantry, you could always go and grab SPA 33 from the berries. And that gives us 3 mounted colonels. Now, you're probably not going to need 3, so you could have 2 as brigade commanders, and then the third one could be a command option for one of your battalions. But I would recommend the Princessa Regiment if you are going to do the corps or the division from 1807, because that was the most senior one in that division. But it doesn't really matter. You could also just use him, instead of the Grenadiers, you could use him as a friend for La Romana, or you could just have a 3rd Brigade commander for when you expand the army in future. If you go down that road, that's going to cost you £10, so you've still got some money left over, and that's why I would recommend that you go to the 3rd new manufacturer on this video, and that is Parkfield Miniatures. Now, Parkfield Miniatures do 4 Spanish flags for £1.50 each. I mean, you get 2 in each pack. So that, I think, is an absolute steal. I'd pick up all 4 of those. So that's an extra £6. You spent £16, and you got 14 left over. Now, we do still need to get those 50mm cavalry bases. So that's another £1.50. And even if you buy the extra infantry box, you're still going to need to buy those cavalry bases. So again, if you went for the mounted colonels with the £1.50 for the for the bases, sorry, that would be what, £12 spent. So you've got £18 left over, which you could get yourself a nice funky mule team or something like that for. So that could be an alternative, or maybe a vignette that you could buy either from Eureka Miniatures or something like that. I did mention Brigade Games very briefly earlier on, so you could perhaps leap over there, grab some extra guerrilla models or just alternative ones. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to leave that up to you, because for me, I would probably grab a 4th box of infantry, and by the time I've done that, it's £25. I've got the extra £1.50 for the cavalry bases, so that's £26.50. I have got £3.50 left over, which will certainly buy me some Freddos, but I'm not much more than that, I don't think. It really would be up to you to decide in that final analysis of which way you wanted to go. So that's it. That is the end of the start collecting. I can't really think of many more there are left to do. Maybe something like Westphalia, or who are the crazy Italians? Naples, something like that. But yeah, no, that's certainly all of the main powers done. What have we got at the end of our £250 spending? Well, if we've gone down the route that I suggested, we have 6 battalions of infantry and a small battalion of skirmishing infantry. We have 2 small units of guerrillas and a small unit of mounted guerrilla, and we also have 2 regiments of dragoons. This army is backed up by a battery of 2 guns, and to be honest, I think that's a pretty solid core of an army. As I say, though, this one is very much you can get a lot more than that if you are going to third-party companies and you buy plastic instead of metal. You can totally do away with the metal figures, not for the guerrilla at the moment, but you can do away with the metal cavalry, save yourself some money there, which means you can reinvest it into some more figures. But I think that's a large enough starter army. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video today. Let me know if there is a getting started that I haven't done that you would like me to do. I'm thinking I might do naval as one. I also have been planning to do a getting started video for quite a long time as well. But thank you very much for tuning in, and I will leave you with the words of La Romana himself. Mi patri est min notte. I'll see you guys next time.